22,
23rd.
23.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Welcome to DevKami number 23. What are we talking about today? Education?
Yeah,
Stuff?
education.
All right. So this is number 23. We're still working on a lot of stuff.
I'm Tristan.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm swimming. We have
Yeah.
Chilia
I'm
and of course Tristan. I'm drunk from event for this week. This week had a lot of event.
Yes.
So let's
There'll be more.
go a little bit to the past. For the last 3 days alone, we have 2 days. We have KLJS meetup yesterday. Then the day before we have
DevOps.
DevOps, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have DevOps yet, Junior Dev.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. The DevOps was the Friday before.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, do I have a break in between? I thought today is only break. Let me look at the calendar.
No, today is the only break, yes.
Yeah, because I remember yesterday is KLJS, the day before is...
Tomorrow, unless you want to attend.
Yep, tomorrow we have Elixir KL meetup.
Yeah.
That will be there before.
You're going to be there?
Tuesday, I'll be there. I'll definitely be there because I'm nothing to do at home.
Okay.
So just so you know.
I might. Okay. A bit of off topic. I might give you a guide on how to set up the recording afterwards.
Oh. Okay.
In Mind Valley?
Mind Valley. It's very easy.
Yeah. They set it up for you.
Okay.
Yeah. You just need to know which one to turn on and what button to press.
All right. So tomorrow is Elixir meetup. Saturday is Open Data Day by Sina Project and IO Foundation at the Starling at TJ. No, it's actually Damansara Uptown. My mistake. And then Tuesday we have Ruby Tuesday.
Yeah.
Then we have Rumu who called computer vision. A deep learning for computer vision and the Rust meetup.
In KLCC, Maxis Tower.
Oh yeah, the Rumu who code event is happening in Maxis Tower, Maxis at KLCC, right?
At the same time, the Rust meetup is happening as well on Wednesday. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, I thought they have it on. Oh no, because Ivan put the wrong time zone on his submission.
Okay.
Never mind.
Then finally, there's a Python meetup which I didn't confirm the venue yet on 9. I might delay that because 9 March is Women March KL. I don't want people to choose between 2 events.
There's quite a lot going on this month.
Yep. Until April. So that's it. So that's the few events happening for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Then what's on the news? We had a few interesting things happening on the news today. For the past few days, PostgreSQL had a fix for their fsync failure. Do you know about the fsync failure thing?
No. What is the fsync failure?
So major databases had some unexpected behavior when they use fsync on the Unix system.
So that's when you flush your data into the file system, right?
Correct. So what happened is they register a success, but it's not. It's actually a failure, causing some weird behavior. So
the worst part is, I want to add on. The worst part is it might fail to save certain part of the data.
Yep. Need to data loss.
And you think that you have everything in there, but when you try to fetch it, it's not there.
Is it a bug on the file system or is it a bug on Postgres?
It's a bug on Postgres, but it's a very edge case kind of bug. So and it doesn't affect as many, hopefully.
Correct. But it's an unexpected behavior because they thought fsync worked very differently. So now PostgreSQL had a patch. Actually, the patch is on Valentine's Day. What happened is there will raise a failure if the fsync is not successful. So there's a fix for it. So that's a big one for me. Any interesting news that you found over the last few days?
Not that I know.
I don't know how recent it is, but GitHub has PR draft PRs now.
Oh, I have a very good use case for it.
Yeah. How do you use it?
No, we keep having work in progress because uh, we don't have a good discipline with fixing it, with fixing the team.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, ultimately, it's not a good use case for draft because we have some bad discipline of merging. But it's a good idea in a way that when you do not want to commit a change, but to get people feedback for some complicated piece of code, algorithm, business behavior, and whatnot, work in progress, pull request is a great idea.
But what we used to do before this draft PR in GitHub, right? We use
Yep,
the labels. So we have a WIP in red as
correct.
a label. So we label it as WIP. This just makes it more formal, where
Yep,
someone cannot actually do the merge
correct.
thing.
So I think it's a great idea to make it
Yeah.
to formalize this behavior.
Well,
Uh,
what we do use it for is not. It's something that this draft PR actually fixes. Because what I would usually do is, well, the ideal scenario is that whenever I work on a new feature, right, I
yep,
check out and create a new branch of this new feature, and
yep,
ideally I would be pushing that branch without any commits already,
yep.
so that every new commit it goes through, and so that anyone in the team, for example, can take a look at the branch. It's
Mhm.
exactly how I pushed it. It's already there's already a comparison. They can already do the code review. I can take a look at it. Everything works. The problem is, if you do that
Mhm.
without any commits, of course there's no difference, and so the branch actually does not yet push because there's no difference with master, right? So
Yep.
you actually have to do something like do a change in readme, for example, like, or do a small change in the change log, just so that there will be a difference, so that Git will actually create that branch for you. So in this case, I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that workaround anymore. I can just create a draft PR immediately when starting work on a branch, and then continue on committing as before.
Right. So that
So it's more like from the very beginning you create a branch so that everything that you work on is transparent.
yep. So I think that's the two one. Chilang, anything that is interesting that happened for you?
Not that I know of.
All right. With that said, I think we can move on. So what are we talking about again? Education.
Education, yeah. Let's first let's talk about like your experience with education first. Then we're gonna don't talk about the issues too much. We'll focus on that on the later part. So
Yep.
yeah.
Are we talking about swimming's history, life story,
Yeah.
If you
education?
want to, yeah. We're supposed to chime in a bit.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Look. I
So
do have.
you want me to do an
Question.
introduction of why do we come up with this
Yeah.
topic?
So why you have this idea for the first place?
No, it's actually not about the usual runs about the education system, but it's about if you notice a lot of people in the industry,
Yep.
I think besides swimming, in the IT industry, not many of them are actually first major in computer
Computer science.
science,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
or software engineering.
Right.
So the topic for this time is we're gonna focus on what makes it our industry so diverse. I don't know,
Yeah.
or does education matters
Mm-hmm.
in this field?
Like, is it a good thing that a lot of diverse
Yeah,
disciplines go into computer science, or
yeah.
is it like something bad? Like, does it mean that computer science is so accommodating? There's actually nothing much there, since anyone
Um,
can do it,
I
right?
have my share of personal opinion
Yeah.
for the IT industry. I think it's the blue collar job of the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
I totally agree with
so
that.
everybody enjoying.
So I'm going to be so welcome. So now that we
And
go
oh,
for
and also one question for swimming:
yes.
would you recommend someone to take a computer science degree, or if he or she in the middle of it feel that it's not so helpful, and would you and there's an intention to quit, to drop out,
Yeah.
Would you recommend that? Yep. Let's talk
Okay.
about it.
So
Yeah, you can start with your history.
I'm actually had two sides of me in my computer science education. I self-taught myself Python in 98 or so. So I was 14, one of the earliest language. I blame Eric S. Raymond because I want to be a hacker.
Yeah.
I want to be a hacker, and one of the language and Eric S.
You,
Raymond.
let's assume that nobody knows what you're talking about.
So Eric
So
S. Raymond is actually one of the main contributor of open source software.
yeah.
He is one of the person that among of key contributor that coined the term open source. I don't remember which is the software he do, but he used to be a pro hacker. He is what we call a very old school hacker, not a security hacker. So in a way that he hacks system, he built things and make things. So when I was young and unwise, I want to be a hacker. You know, it sounds cool.
Which sort of hacker would you envision to
You
be?
know, that's before the Matrix, but you know, I thought I just want to be master of my computers, right?
Hmm.
So I thought like, why not? It sounds cool. So what happened is I follow the good thing that the first thing I found is his article on how to be a hacker. So in this case, he's not talking about security hacker. He's talking about hacker in a unique sense. So one of the first things that I introduced is learn Python. So as a result, I set up myself Python way over my head. But it's actually it's a good thing. That's my first one of my earliest taste of software development, programming, hacking code. And it doesn't really make sense, but it's fun to play with. I learned some data structure and all that. So that's my first thought. Then in between, I also learned some basic, QBasic. QBasic is one of the hidden gem of Windows 98 those days.
Well, even DOS 6.2.
Yeah, you won't find it in Windows XP upward,
Yeah.
but it's a hidden gem in Windows 98 actually.
QBasic is where I also got my actually started really programming in
Correct.
QBasic. The
So
realist, for example, would be the classic one.
So after that, much later, in between, I'm too lazy. In between university and Form 5, I self-taught myself C and C++.
You have a really busy life then.
Yeah, I love to thank. This one is actually I want to thank the guys that do Dev C++. It's an open, free and open source compiler that actually works on Windows.
I didn't know that it's actually open source.
I do not believe it's open source, but it's free to use without very little restriction. In a way that it's not pirated, they actually release it for you to use.
Yeah, and we have to a bit of background story is you used to need to pay for a compiler.
Yeah, so it's a lot of us have been pampered by the fact that GCC and all that have been released for some time. In 2004 or so, buying compilers, i.e. Visual Studio, is the norm. It's actually the norm, not the open source software in software industry in Malaysia during the early 2000s and late 90s. Before late 90s, buying compiler is the norm. So you're paying things like per seat, or per CPU core, etc. Just to use a compiler. So it's very expensive. And by expensive, I mean 1,000 a month or so of subscription. So either way, I got my exposure from that. Then I decided that I want to take a computer science degree, right? Then I realized that I learn programming, I get A easily, so I got bored. But here is where things come interesting. In university, you do not get, they might spend a lot of time. So during those days, early 2000 is where you got things like, do you remember the time that you can actually use Twitter using HTTP basic alt?
Yeah.
Yes, same with Facebook.
Yeah, so you can use curl or use a favorite scripting language. You do like 5 lines of code, then you do a tweet. It's like so powerful. Remember that time?
Yeah,
right?
that was the time when it was easy for to use Twitter as a command and control center.
Yeah, there
like
is
a message queue thing.
Yeah,
it's not so much API per se. It's just like HTTP post and something and get it done, right?
Yeah,
Then at
it's like
least
your it's like a public Redis for
correct. Uh,
do some
A-
stuff.
And also, it serves as the what you call it, the registry for anything that connected to internet, not
yeah,
Yeah.
pre IoT eras IoT here.
yes.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
it's actually pretty amazing those days. So what happened is during the city, I discovered Python again. I discovered Python again, which is good, which is awesome, because it's those days we use things like we still use URL. It's really tedious nowadays to do a tree line. Nowadays, those days we have to set up stuff. So why I like to talk about university education, because it's actually I have two things happen. One, university doesn't teach you how to talk HTTP, right? It doesn't teach you HTTP. It doesn't teach you a lot of stuff. It teaches you something that think is useful in industry, right?
Yep.
So in my time, the curriculum in university it goes like this: basic programming, object-oriented programming, software engineering, then your networking involves routing on a Cisco router, but not HTTP protocol.
I
That
think syllabus for college syllabus were really focused on getting you a job.
correct, right? So uh, so those are useful. It shows you how things work on the basic level, but it's the thing like talking to Twitter, HTTP requests. Those are you self-taught yourself. You don't actually get it from school.
Yeah. So and there are no libraries like pre-built libraries that time, so you actually have to understand what it is that you're
Correct.
doing. Trial and
And
error at least.
yes, so to me, to that time, during the time is one of the most interesting time because there's another second part of the university education that I actually go through. I actually majored in artificial intelligence. Not everybody knows. I mean, a lot of people know already. And what they taught is, again, it sounds theoretical at the time. Hill climbing, basic artificial intelligence. They taught things like logic programming, some maths for image processing, neural networks, and all that. It's during the time, early 2000, though everybody thinks it's a crazy idea. Why you want to learn that, right?
Which one again? What is a crazy idea?
Major in artificial
Ah,
intelligence,
yeah.
learn things like logic programming,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
natural language processing, neural network, all that. Nobody tell you don't get a job in AI,
Yeah.
right?
Before AI was sexy, it was like
Correct,
you're weird if you wanted to study that.
correct. And also, I choose to take algorithm classes. That's where I actually seriously focus on things like big O, basic search algorithm, and all that. Now, so there is three part of education that I have to university that's pretty important. One, the basic, your programming and all that. Second, the self-taught part, the part where I hack things on Python to Twitter and whatnot because the environment is there. You have the self-taught. And the third part is very important. And a lot of people do not take opportunity on that. A lot of the theoretical part of computer science education that you do not actually get a chance. And many people that jump straight to industry do not always see this directly until things happen, right? And the third part is very interesting in a way. Is the third part of algorithm worth going for a computer science degree for? I benefit from it. I happens to work in some. Okay, so I have this story that I like to tell. In one company, what happened is we try to build a scheduling algorithm,
Mm-hmm.
right? Front end scheduling algorithm on JavaScript. This is around 2010 or so, 2012 or so. So we do not have modern of doing JavaScript classes, right?
Well, 2010 is around HTML5 already. So
Correct. And we're still on jQuery. So what happened is our front end person,
jQuery is fine.
yeah, it's awesome. And it's still awesome now, I believe. But what happened is our scheduling algorithm goes like this. A user should able to prefetch a schedule somehow, that so that a user when they manipulate a claim, they can automatically detect that there's a restriction on how you can claim how you can claim your claim in the calendar within a month. So as a result, you need to keep track of it using your on the browser because they want to do it dynamically instead of API server. So what a team member does is they pass the data. They pass the data and they keep passing it every time, double check it every time. And scheduling is unbearably slow. And days before production is pretty bad, right? You keep parsing is a very naive operation. And they use a list, it's a very long list, so it's pretty bad. But what happened is, to me, it occurs to me that it's easier to do it in classes because JavaScript object is an object, it's a dictionary. Therefore, you got O log n, right? So it's theoretically faster. That's from the start. Then from there, pass it, reorganizing it. That's where one of the it's not obvious to my team member that don't have a very comprehensive computer science education, whereas
okay.
I can see that it's a data structure, reorganizing data structure.
I have some argument about that. Okay. Okay, let's wrap up the introduction. So me and Tristan, we're gonna have 5 minutes of introduction as well.
Yeah.
So we get our chance to speak.
Yeah.
Mainly to let everybody know about our background. So
yeah. So
let's start with Tristan first.
Yeah, Tristan should start first.
I started off very far from computer programming. I was interested in computers. The first computer I remember was the ZX81. It's the black small thing with a tape recorder and those things, right? But the actual one where I started learning how to program was with an Apple II clone. And I remember typing in code from Byte magazine, from I forgot the other magazines, but you have to type in basic code into the computer, right, in order to run it. And then of course you have diskettes. But when I started university, I actually took um, accounting and business administration. So it's probably like a full as far away from computer science as you can. And when I graduated, I worked for a bit in a call center, and then I took a master's degree in business administration, and then I worked as a restaurant manager for Jollibee. And after that, before there were boot camps, I took a boot camp, a Java boot camp. If I don't know if you know about it, but and a lot not I think not a lot of people know about it as well. But the Philippines actually has the Philippine government has support for all of these things way back in 2007 when I took my boot camp, Java boot camp. Uh, they call it TESDA. I forgot what TESDA means, but um, so it was a scholarship basically. So the government paid for that boot camp. I took the Java course mostly so that I can get those credentials because back then credentials are still important. Nobody will hire you unless you can produce a piece of paper. Even though I have been interested in programming, and I got the scholarship basically because I already knew how to do Java, and I'm probably a success story for them. So they just went through the motions. I took the classes, and I got my first programming job at it's not a telco, but they do value added services. So VAS. So back then, before there was the iPhone, the application was to send yes to 2345, for example, and then there will be a conversation happening. And so the backend there, I was doing the backend for the value added services. So it's a roundabout path, but I guess the special thing there is because I have always been interested in programming. It's just that I never formally studied it until later in life. So that's like a small life story for me.
So Chi Leong, you had an interesting story.
I don't have any interesting story. My story is
you're a college dropout.
I'm not a computer science college dropout.
You're business
I don't do much of coding when I was little. It was until teenagers. I'm more of a tinkering person, so basically going around looking for stuff to fix and to take apart. Not necessarily like the programming, but
Mm.
I learned programming pretty late. I think almost at the end of my secondary school era. Pick up a C++ book on sale. It was on sales for 80 ringgit. It was a lousy book, but at least I got something to get started.
Mhm.
Yeah, then I was in school. I major in biology. Then I don't know what I want to do, so I after Form 6, I don't know what I want to. I just stay at home for a year and plus, like basically like a hikikomori, just do some websites, PHP, tinkering and stuff, because there's some people pay me for it, and some people pay me for writing games reviews as well. Then yeah, I came up to Kuala Lumpur and trying to listen to everyone, pick up a part-time business degree, but I didn't finish it. I didn't. Yeah, that's it. Just keep doing it. The thing I want to mention is the most important thing about for me in learning is, and that is why I'm so involved in community right now, is because the community definitely influenced me a lot. So I actually benefited a lot from the community.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of encouragement and support from like when I don't know what I want to do. So, and yeah, and that is time where the Python group is around, and the rest is history.
So here's the cool thing about IT industry.
Mm.
Anybody can join, right? Many people, a lot
And
of
I can
us,
say, even though I'm not a CS grad, I can say my foundation for CS algorithms are pretty good.
yeah. So that being said, I would just want to say that our industry are doing such a good job, at making things easy in practice and in tools. Notice that
Mm-hmm.
everybody can code, everybody can come. So, and why I say practice and tools, because not everything is about tools. So I give you a very cool example. Documentation, knowledge sharing, it's great. I do not know how other industry is, but in our industry, knowledge sharing is the norm.
Yeah.
Notice that. So you can have,
And I can say like I can consider myself one of the first batch to get really benefited from the open source community,
yeah,
because that is the time where it's getting more active and more visible everywhere.
correct. So I do not know how the actual engineering outside software actually do knowledge sharing. Uh, but I noticed that even in university and the electronic engineering department, what they do is they have samples to students, and you build on samples, right? You sell to the university on a chip, and you never bring it home out, right? Because it's just expensive. Whereas in software, our development tools other than your computers are cheap. Notice that?
Yep.
So it's very easy to get in. Uh,
And
those,
it's been getting easier and easier throughout the years. Like 1980s,
yeah,
like it's relatively easier for software, but it's still a mainframe. But
correct.
then it became smaller and smaller, and now everyone has a laptop. Whereas
Yes,
before, you can only program on a desktop because a desktop is the one that has the power
yeah.
to run your programs and compile them.
Uh, Despite my opinion on intellectual property,
Mm-hmm.
those days in 90s almost always now the environment is more healthier. We have okay. So put it this way, I like to call open source software as a gift to us. Uh, yes, they may have do it for other reason, but I consider that a gift, which is why I don't just call it open source software. I
Mm.
prefer call it free software, and free and libre, in a way freedom and also gratis, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a gift to us for us to do things. Uh, so we have C compiler, unthinkable in the late 80s. to have it for free. We have how many different language exist nowadays? It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So the type of you have three different languages. Choose one. You like Rails, go ahead. You have Flutter, go ahead.
And remember when like Python was everyone was doing Python, the one was a big,
Yeah.
or some of the languages like PHP and
Yes.
Ruby. The main selling point is a open source language.
Yes. Well, when it started in a way that it's a free language, which I think again not really healthy, right? Not really healthy. But I think Malaysia still is, but this culture issue. But the only reason why we have Apache server those days and PHP is because those things are free. So which is why for a while open source software actually make it very easy for us to access it price wise. That being said,
Without having to violate laws like
correct. That being said,
pirating.
it's easy to get in, but the practice are not necessarily good across the industry, or rather, let's not talk big industry in general, or maybe individual developer, right?
Mm-hmm.
PHP had a lot of bad practices.
Well, more like they didn't know better,
Yeah, correct.
and the knowledge evolved, and then looking back, they found that it was a bad practice. So
Correct.
not,
I think the notoriety came from PHP 4.0,
Yeah.
4 era, around like where you can actually inline HTML with the connection to the MySQL database.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I think that's the time where it gets really.
But during that time, though, that was how you got things done, because
Yeah.
things were simpler back then,
Correct.
and things were getting done. So I wouldn't say, like, looking back though, it was a bit difficult to maintain,
Yes.
but the business value of getting something out because it's working and
Yes.
actually getting stuff to show is like way overpowers whatever like practices that was being used to make that work.
Yeah, and I find it amazing. Unlike a lot of trade, you don't strict to create value. You do not need a 4 year computer science education, and that's
Mhm.
my first disclaimer. It's easy to get started. You do not need a 4 year computer science degree to get started. So that's my first thing. So open source software make it easy for us to use the software legally and freely. It's a gift to us. But here's the second part: the tools, and it's not just crappy tools. It's a high quality tools that's easy to use, easy to get in.
I cannot say it's very easy to use.
Okay, I have
Like
years, but it's
10 to 15
usable.
years ago, things were really rough.
Yep. But our tools and practice will get easier. We have more information online.
Yeah, we had Canonical mailing out free discs,
Yes,
installation discs.
correct. So what happened is, you do not need a 4 year education to make a website. And that to me is awesome, right? You can get started, right? In
But
fact,
if you are going to solve some fundamentals issues, then you need that for basically as a gateway
so yes,
for more.
But what are these fundamentals, right? But so sometimes so there's this kind of elitism that happens when you ask a person who's actually getting to do something
yep,
and making things work, when you ask them, do you know your fundamentals? Because sometimes people just want to get things done, and
yes,
they just do whatever
Yeah.
it takes to get it done without necessarily knowing exactly how it gets done, because
correct.
maybe they didn't have time to study it, or it's just not as important for them.
Similar to baking, without going to
Yeah.
baking
Mhm.
classes. I just
Yeah,
know how to
because
do it that way.
if you start watching this YouTube channel called America's Test Kitchen, they actually break down the chemistry and why
Yeah.
these particular temperatures work for these
Yep.
particular ingredients, and that's like amazing, and I can work on top of that. But that's something that might come to me in the future. As of now, I just need to make things working. So
or
maybe
is
that's
which is
why.
or which doesn't represent like how 99% of us do things.
Yeah,
How
in
we
fact, I can tell you, most of our project we are not advanced. Because our project, uh, uh, look, here's our website. Our website is three things. We had an API, very general stuff. We had JavaScript. Those are libraries. We use it and we try to render it. And this first prototype, and we iterate on the prototype.
Yep.
How often we had interesting problem that you have to look at it algorithmically.
I don't know. Probably you need that when you need to like fight against alien invaders.
It's I have a few projects where having that useful, but you do not need it. I already tell you one where I debug this problem. Another one is a Sina project, people have relationship visualization, where we use graph algorithm for that.
It's can say this way we can pick it up ourselves. Like
Yes,
it's always better you learn it up yourself anyway. But to get started or to build things, we actually most of the time we don't need to know what is
correct.
going on. But if you need, I think it's a very common concept nowadays. When you need
Yes,
scale, then you need this concept at least
correct,
a little bit of them.
But
correct.
so here's probably the analogy there, that why would the mason worker study architecture and engineering when they're not building the next strange upside down house,
Correct.
right? They are going to be building houses. They've been doing it for the last 20 years. Um, and maybe they're happy with doing that. And so why are some people expecting them to understand how to do like that upside down house that looks amazing on the outside and is well proportioned,
Yeah,
whatever, right?
but yes, but we are not expecting a stonemason to do it. We're expecting an engineer to do it.
I'm expecting
Yeah,
like
exactly.
people, especially academics, they they should come up with I don't know breakthroughs of certain matters and
Yeah.
things instead of like focusing on competing with us to build stuff. We are the guys who are good at building stuff anyway. So
Problem with
you're a bit
problem
arrogant.
problem with computer science. The Okay, so problem with computer
I can
science.
put it as I think probably the very confusing part is software engineering versus computer science.
Yeah, there's really not that many. There are really not that many fundamentals that you can think of right now. Artificial
For,
intelligence is full of it.
for software engineering, there is nothing much
Uh, yeah,
fundamentals that you need.
software engineering is literally like engineering now. It's practices and all that.
All the design buttons, all those things, just to help you, but it doesn't. It's not something that you really need it to
Yeah.
do it well.
So there is two types. It's like skunk works. I just recently read about skunk works. Aircraft engineering is two things. Uh, the basic of engines are there and it's iteration of existing technology. Often you do not actually build, there's not many new technology for the past 50 years or so. Occasionally you need to go really
Yeah,
crazy.
that's why I call it a blue collar job. Like,
Correct. So, but sometimes you really need to know your fundamentals to do something revolutionary, right? Again, back to engineering, the skunk works have to invent new technology when they build when they built the SR-71 Blackbird, because they needed fast, high altitude, and they had to build a lot of fundamental technology and cooling technology for them to build a plane that can go that fast. Okay. Versus a 747, which is an iteration of existing technology. Yes,
I
there's
would
much technology.
compare them because they are both working on like something.
Correct. So
that's
software engineering
new.
software engineering is somewhere that a lot of our practice is about iterating the same thing. But we are not in Malaysia. We don't have skunk works like environment. The best to talk about skunk is actually in Google and also Cloudflare. People that actually had heavy workload by design. They are doing the cutting edge of software engineering in practice.
So maybe it is because the skills are different. Like,
Yep.
Correct.
there is the skill where it needs to be consistent and you need to be able to produce business value, basically. And of
Correct.
course, there's the other side where you need to be doing innovations, not necessarily something that uh, make money. Like you're going to an asteroid and shooting a bullet to an asteroid,
Yeah.
but for what reason, right? What do we gain from it right now? But that might pay off in the like
Mm,
in the distant future when we
yep.
find out this is how you destroy an asteroid coming to hit the
Yeah.
earth.
But
Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's how it will work. But it's been
uh,
how things have been progressing. There will be these scientists that create technology that has no any relation with whatever
Yep.
uh, life that we have here on earth, but 25 years later technology that was brought about by that kind of innovation is now everyday life.
actually, I have a few good examples for that. Before I want to turn back to education, uh, uh, some of the pioneer of deep learning are doing deep learning in the 1990s and 1980s when Sun exists. When they run it, the network are trained in days. Even to do it in nowadays, that would be a commercial failure, right? There's deep learning in the 1980s. It take days to train a deep neural network. Now we call it 2 hours as too long. If you're going to look at that, deep learning, there's a paper, one of the earliest MNIST paper. Uh, they do it despite of commercial success. It takes them 20 years before they got the hardware to do their thing, right? So you're talking about precisely that. It takes them 20, 30 years before people talk about deep learning in practice. So you need people that understand theory to do that. So another good example in computing is actually quantum computers. Quantum computers are traditionally quantum physics traditionally is a very interesting field if you worry about microchip and all that, but most of the time it's very academic. It's about maths, fields, and all that. It really doesn't make sense for a while. Like, what's the practical use for quantum computing? The short answer is, turns out that in the 80s, quantum physics is created in the 1920s. It's in the 80s, Shaw discovered that it's very useful to solve certain type of algorithmic problem. We don't have hardware, it's all maths. Until now, we have the technology to build some form of quantum computers. It takes people 70 bloody years to actually make something practical out of knowledge that's not really useful. So do you notice that, right?
Yeah, like why do I care if
Because
you don't like you don't know whether something is a particle or a wave
Yeah.
until you start measuring it. Like
correct,
what does it
I think
have
no.
to do with me?
I think what
it's a bet. It's a bet.
I think the point that Tristan want to reach is for let's say we are a bunch of car mechanics.
Yes,
Why are we required during interview? Why are we required
correct.
to answer about like the difference between a particle and a wave
Yeah.
and
So
like
yeah,
quantum
you're right.
mechanics, quantum physics, like this kind of knowledges.
So
Maybe it will, like if we do suddenly have like a fusion engine in a
yeah,
car, then maybe it would be a requirement, right? But at this point when we're still doing electric cars,
so
that's not something that I want to be asked for. It's not a skill that is required of me, and that's not something that I can prove
yes.
that would give value.
So you're talking about two different things here. Why do you study things now? So my thing there is you study things because you do not know what is useful in the future. But there's another school of learning right here. Uh, we study because we want to do work. Which philosophy of studying you subscribe to? To me, I don't have a good answer for that because PGP doesn't make sense. We don't and number theory and prime numbers, which is not useful until the 80s, right? Uh, but when you go for interview, unless you interview for people that implement crypto system, you probably do not need to know that. So
Yeah, exactly.
right, there's two, which is why I say, uh, It's not that we need to look at different level
I
of
think
education and different
I
kind
think
of tasks.
it's similar to like I'm going to just my day job just involved mainly like maintaining and repair old cars,
Yes.
but like the people at like probably like Scanwoods,
Yeah.
the job position in Scanwood probably requires you to know everything under the
Yes.
sun.
Yes. So it's a very different way of doing things. So in software development, what you want to study, why you study, right? Why you want to study computer science, why you need a computer science degree, right? So there's a few things to look at. We need to throw away one thing. Malaysia is still a very degree focused country. So we need to throw away that one day is given. We know that as a result, people with university degree easily get job. That's given, right? So now we only talk about value. What's the value of a computer science education? The short answer is not a lot, really, because the type of project that a lot of us do are not advanced computer science problem.
Put it this way, in my biased opinion is, I don't know what's school. I don't think school knows, especially CS school here, knows what they are trying to do.
Yes.
I think some of them are trying to mix it with trying to catch up with industry and stuff. But as you say, academics actually has their responsibility of like to innovate or to prepare stuff for the future. But what they are trying to do now is like competing with the market instead of stay ahead of it or trying to provide new solutions.
Yeah, but in this case, it's also because people think university is a job training center.
I think that's the biggest misconception, that once after you graduate, you're job ready, right?
No, you're
Which
not.
maybe in the industrial era that might be the case, because after you graduate, then you're ready to be hired into a production system, because you can start reading the manuals and you can still read the science, etc. Right? But now I think what universities should focus on are like these foundations, so that when they start getting these jobs where they actually start learning how to produce something, they can refer back to those foundations, start putting them together, and then start even innovating on top of that, because you can rearrange whatever you've learned in a different way.
Correct. So a crazy one, I want to go back to school. I took AI as a result. Now when AI are cool again, I have foundation for me to sit on top on and refresh myself on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shortcut, and it's a very valuable shortcut. Right?
Yeah. Same I guess with mine. Like, I find it a lot easier to talk to marketing and business, for example, because I somehow can switch between this is what needs to be done, but I also understand what it is that where they're coming from, and so I
Correct.
kind of understand why they're phrasing this particular request in a particular way. Because if I'm going to be very pedantic and very strict, I'm going to say this is not possible.
Correct.
Your specifications are too vague. But
Yes.
because of, like, I did a bit of business training background, I understand what it is that they're trying to do. So that's also a way for me to draw upon my foundations, try to rearrange it with what I've learned so far as a worker in computer in programming.
Correct.
Merge them together and make something better out of it.
So, but
I have to put it as well. My foundation allows me to understand truck labels.
But sometimes we have to take a bet. What you want to learn, what you want to do, right? I think one thing that we as industry doesn't do well is apprenticeship. What is really useful down here.
A majority, a large part of our work involve like hands-on, mechanical, kind of what would you call it? It's more like a trade school kind of skill instead of academics.
Fortunately, and it's by necessity. Tristan, talk about a framework that you're using right now, programming framework.
Programming framework?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Vue.js. What do you want to talk about?
Vue.js come out when?
Probably 2014. I have to check.
Okay. What is the last time you learned to use it?
When was the last time I learned?
Yeah,
Like,
you learned.
The last time you have to read documentation.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
probably like yesterday.
Correct, right? When you first have to use it, it's maybe I go back more than 6 months ago, way after you
Oh.
graduate, right?
Sorry, what was the question? I wasn't following.
So
I'm confused now.
okay, here's the point I want to make is software industry by practice require us to self-taught ourselves.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Because frameworks require us to
Well,
every
I
2
would
years.
I would call it like just in time learning.
Yes, right? Just in time learning. So often that is good enough for us to build a project. Am I correct?
Yeah, I because I would say you have to produce, and sometimes you need to just work on something, and
Yes.
then you need this sense when you know you need more information, and so
Yes.
that's when you start learning it and then
Yeah.
applying it and start doing the trial and error. Because if you start studying too long,
Yep.
like for or investing too much time, and then there's no value being produced, and most likely the business would have like lost its timing, for example, because you
All
did
right.
not launch in time for Christmas, let's say.
Yeah. Software project is precisely that. You have the new thing, you need to get it done. You deliver it within 6 months, and that is long. That is considered long.
Mhm.
And the framework you use is maybe 2 years old, way after you graduate, right? Most projects is like that. The nature of software project in Malaysia is like that. Okay, doesn't mean that we do not have strange things happen before. A good example is companies are rushing to get the developer to understand deep learning.
Oh, I thought blockchain. Okay.
For example, I need to tie something. I need to tie something closer to a.
Let me give you a tips. Blockchain is where all the big monies are.
Yeah. But I need to tie it to something that is previously a fundamentals in computer science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence, right? Now, so why I want to talk about why I raise that? It goes
I
like
don't know
this.
what you want to talk about.
You talk about just in time learning.
Yeah.
Within 6 months, you get to do that. Now, company are expecting your software developer to do machine learning thing, right?
Yeah, because you want to make them productive as soon as possible.
Correct.
That's the ROI for.
Yes, but machine learning is a very weird topic. You need some fundamentals, right? But you can learn yourself. Actually, it take longer time.
Challenge accepted.
So machine learning is like the wild west right now, because there's no the way it's presented right now, like because there's so much opportunity, so much potential, that it's like JavaScript frameworks before you settled on the big guys like Angular, React, and Vue, right?
Remember
before
last
it was
time?
this a lot.
Remember we had Grunt, Gulp, and stuff. A lot of stuff before Webpack.
Yeah.
You have Grunt. What else?
Gulp. I remember Gulp.
Gulp. Yeah, all of these things. So, but that was the wild west of JavaScript before. I think ML is the same place, which is why it's very difficult to focus on a particular technology, because you don't even know if it will be something that you want to invest on.
Yeah.
Because something might change in the future. Whereas now, let's comparing it to JavaScript again. You know that if you get either React or Vue or Angular, you're basically set for the next 10 years, because you know these are stable technologies.
Yes.
If you were doing Moo.js or Backbone.js before,
I'm sorry.
like now, okay, I don't. You need to relearn something, right?
Yeah.
If you remember Moo.js,
Unfortunately.
I know.
Or Knockout. Knockout is like the precursor for all of these reactive stuff.
So the reason why I want to tie that one is that kind of learning require fundamentals to learn easily. Okay, I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
What are you trying to imply? Like,
okay, so certain company that able to exploit this technology on postgrads, working with them, Google's, the Uber, and all that. But it's not something Malaysia need, because Malaysian company are not willing to invest in this kind of problem. We don't have the money to invest on this kind of problem. As a result, we do not actually go on the forum.
I think that's a problem statement which is also an opportunity statement.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's more because companies are not hiring the correct people. If you want to do cutting edge research for machine learning, then you
Yeah.
hire the PhDs. You don't hire a fresh graduate and expect them to learn
Yeah,
machine learning, open source software, and then produce this new algorithm. They don't have the knowledge and they don't have the experience.
Correct. Now here's where I bring back to what I want to talk about. There's two type of learning, two type of job in the computer world. There's the practical job, the software developers, which is somewhat more equivalent to a mason, to a mechanic, because the thing that you do are stable. JavaScript is the same for the last 10 years.
Mhm.
Python exists, software development exists for the past 10 years. You know MVC framework, you basically get the idea of how various web framework works, right?
So the plumbers and the electricians.
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Janitors.
this type of job is stable enough that I believe, and short term enough that I believe we should learn by apprenticeship. You do not need a 4-year computer science degree.
Hmm.
We don't need a 4-year computer science degree.
Since you mentioned Eric Raymond in the, at the start,
Yeah.
I should quote one of his Zen story.
Yes.
Learn how to walk, but not learn how to walk on which kind of floor tiles.
Yes. So
Like, don't learn like, oh, I only know how to walk on wooden planks,
correct.
but I don't know how to walk on like concrete.
So you understand the principles of walking,
Yeah.
but the application
But
of walking on particular surfaces,
Yeah.
you
yes.
probably can learn on the spot. Like if you've never
Yeah.
lived in a place with ice
Yeah.
and you start walking on ice, maybe you'll fall for the first few minutes,
Yeah.
but then you realize, okay, you need a different approach. The
Yeah.
principles are the same, but a different approach is needed.
Yeah.
Correct. And that level of job, you learn along the way, and there's always new thing that you have to learn yourself.
Yep.
I believe for that one, it's best to learn in apprenticeship style because the reason I believe that's the case is because the tools change very fast.
You know, in Germany, you have a lot of companies where, like trades, especially like
Yeah.
plumbing or mechanics, where the only way that you can get hired is through an apprenticeship. Like
Yes.
you never get hired as a graduate like immediately, um, expected to know what you're doing. Like
Correct.
you go
Also-
through this apprenticeship what procedure.
Correct.
Also, it's a very good question to think about when in terms of pursuing like a higher educational degree, because
Yeah.
in Germany, college is free.
Yes.
But why you don't have 100% of people going to college instead?
Because
Because they have trade school.
yeah, and there's another part of that, which might make trade school style learning not valuable in this country. In Germany, trade person are paid well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Trade
we are the
person are paid
we are
well.
the well-paid trade person now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there's this stigma of like people not going to college,
Yes.
but just going to straight school.
Yeah.
But then, at least in the Philippines, or I don't know here if
Yeah,
it
it's the same
happens
here. It's the
Like,
same here.
But these people who actually graduated then end up being a barista in a coffee shop because they can speak good English or
Yeah.
whatever. But the people who didn't learn how to speak proper English and can
Yes.
get by are the ones that are making a killing doing like specialized plumbing or electrical repairs or those
Correct.
things, right?
So
Food bottle.
So this is one side. Now let's go to the other side where we want to make investment into advanced things. That's where you need. So this is the extreme side where you need postgrad in computer science. People that understand concurrency issues, machine learning, algorithms. So those are very advanced research center industry research. We do not believe Malaysia do not have only research organization, companies offloading R&D to university. As a university, don't push very far, but that's not the point. Let's go to that.
I think until we learn how to separate snake oil and fact,
Yeah,
any of this like higher level kind of not higher advanced level kind of research would fly.
Yeah. But you need to take a bet. That's the thing, right? Companies not willing to take a bet. Government want to act like companies, so they don't take a bet. As a result, Malaysia here doesn't
Oh,
move fundamentally.
we took a lot of bets. We actually had a lot of allocation and stuff to look at. Like,
But
Yeah.
the type of bet are not. So as a result, only company like Uber, Google, and all that have postgrad in the right place to do advanced thing as a very far ahead research to do that happens to benefit to the business.
Yeah, but Malaysian government is taking a bet, like this flying car thing. I think it's a bet, right?
Yeah, but
we invest in everything like bleeding edge and stuff. We're talking about like implementing blockchain within the government.
Yes, so you can start that, right? But how many of those are bets because of buzz? Because everybody tell them to, or bets because it's useful? I think it's a tough thing because it's a bet. It's a bet.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? You don't with this kind of cutting edge research, you don't even know when it will pay off. Like what you were saying.
Yeah.
You like okay, so what if there's wave particle duality? How does that help me now? But then 75 years later, oh sorry, I don't know, 60 years later. Yeah.
So
years later, we actually have like these computers, and you understand that you can't go below 7 nanometers because of this particular limitation. It's a physical limitation where the it's too small that the wave properties of the silicon interferes with the transistor operation.
But
so
there is boring style of bet that awesome for research that do not necessarily waste money right now. For example, control system research. That is hard. Not
well,
hard.
I think before we go too far, we are 1 hour into the track.
All right. So those are advanced things for companies and organizations to take bet.
I'm gonna have one opinion, like just one statement is even though there is no incentive in the market or anything, somebody has to do it.
Yeah, right.
Somebody has to break the vicious circle of nothing is there.
Yeah. But before we go on,
my statement is done.
Correct. Okay, I need to move on to something else after this. I think we might have to take another 30 minutes, but
what?
Cover that. I'll try to cover that as much as possible. What's the value? So now that you know that the market down here is focused toward the software mechanic, right? What's the value of a university education? It's the same reason why we had mechanical engineers in this world, or civil engineers that actually do things. You still need people that know knowledge. You do not need a lot of people with a lot of deep knowledge, but occasionally you need somebody that have not enough knowledge to guide people to the right position. So my favorite story is a common friend that questioned me the value of understanding graph theory until I built what's the point of learning graph. Then many years later, I built a relationship for corruption thing because he never heard of graph. Because the mechanical.
I don't know. I heard about it.
So the software mechanic style. The problem with software mechanic style, the mechanic coder, I call it mechanic coder, is that the focus on task at hand. As a result, there is.
No, I think you just need to find a balance. I'm technically a janitor, but I don't think I'm really bad at algorithms.
Yeah, but what Swimming is saying is that do you have this person who just assembles things from whatever parts are available, and then you have this kind of person who has a 3D printer that prints metal and can actually design specific parts because he knows that the parts are not missing, and because he can actually reach out about and build things.
That's the value of
a computer science education. So the reason
I think for not computer science, it's more like for a thorough education.
Correct.
Where you learn stuff that you don't know that you need.
Yes.
First.
Because when you go to school, you learn something. You have to take long time. Reason why you had higher education in a very practical field of software development. So that's one. But this is just learning alone. After you graduate, you work for a while industry. What's the next step of learning? right? I try to go very far. I think the best thing about software community around the world, not just in Malaysia, is that we had a practice of sharing and improve everybody. That's where we have communities, right? That's where we have conferences that is relatively cheap to the local communities. We spend there's trade show and all that. Of course, we have trade shows for other industry. We need knowledge sharing because our industry moves so fast. That's the third level. That's the education after apprenticeship or graduation. So this is where we talk about community learning. I do not know whether other industry have that. I remember that my dad goes to trade show. He talks to the people that have new technology come out to improve his work, right? But I think that's about it. Whereas our conference can go very deep. The Python conference in Singapore had a workshop. I'll have it, etc. And we go very deep in stuff, right? I think that's a third level of learning that we need to support.
Maybe we can expand on that next time, like the different levels of learning. Like
Actually, in fact, that is in the pipeline like next week.
next week. Okay, we're
Before
talking
we
about
start
that
the
next week.
interview.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. So I think the next episode for DevKami will talk about community learning and the value of community learning.
Yeah, we just very
let's
nicely aligned.
let's take a look at the chat. So there are a few people saying that it's true they don't teach web fundamentals in university. Is that true?
It might change now. But at my time, no. If we put in a 4-year curriculum, we don't have the time to teach it. That's actually a real problem.
Because I was also dealing with this where like we are implementing login on a fully client side application,
Yeah.
and I said like, well, it's login. You just save the information in a cookie and let the browser like do it, and then it's like they found it quite difficult to grasp because um so it was a Rails backend before, and then we had these gems that did the login functionality automatically. So it was a dependency, a library,
Yeah.
and for some reason they never really understood how the interaction of the HTTP request, like a cookie is always sent with every HTTP request for this particular domain. That's why you can save things there, and like it 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 made me realize that they were using libraries without really understanding what it's doing.
Actually, this is an issue of shallow learning. It's
Mhm.
a problem when school doesn't have time to teach you too deep into the
Monkey
fundamentals.
see, monkey do.
It's also a problem with apprenticeship unless you had a very skillful master that willing to teach you to go deep. It's an issue of shallow learning. University have a tendency to be shallow at certain area on the more practical side. For example, application protocols.
Mm-hmm. And actually, if people just attend meetups, like for example, I made a presentation exactly with for this because I realized people don't understand how the whole web login cookie interaction happens, right? And
Yes.
so if people attend meetups, then they will actually understand more. Like, oh, did I know about this before? Because other people have been researching this and reviewing their fundamentals, and then that's how you start learning as well.
And in fact, next week when we talk about community learning, I got a feeling we'll talk about the type of crazy thing we discovered during meetup and conferences.
Probably that will be a 2-hour special.
Correct. But I doubt it. But the reason why we talk about this is we're going to interview a few community. We really want to interview a few community organizer within the next few weeks. We try to get somebody from Angular Conference Malaysia to be part of the interview. We try to expand as much as possible. The idea is we try to get more people. We try to community learn and all that. I think there's a lot of because as I said, computer science and computing in general is actually very deep. It's if you think about the platform, it's very big with many T's. So it gets really complicated. So as I say, I think next week community learning will cover a lot of these little thing and the weird shape T thing. So yeah.
More from the chat. Yay, Vue.js websites use it. React is more famous though, and that don't learn the framework, learn the language. Just in time learning is for frameworks.
Not true. I give you a good example. Golang confused the hell out of everybody. But yes, you're right. Yes and no. The answer for this is yes and no, because Golang confused the hell out of a lot of people.
I don't know, but for me, like
It
that's
makes
why
sense for me.
that's why it's a bubble thing, because
Yeah.
for me and a few of my colleagues, we switch over within a day.
Yeah, I built something out pretty fast, but I know enough people that confuse the hell out of that lah.
Yep. Golang is easy to switch to in a day. It's just that you have to type a lot because
Yep.
now you have to just tell everything. Like you have you lose this sense of you and the computer being in sync because it somehow knows what you're thinking about. Now this is like I am the master. I just do
Yeah.
you just do exactly what I
In
tell
a,
you to do.
yeah, that is
And
in a way is
so strange.
that's why it's in a way easy, because you're not asking for permission from the computer. You're just telling it what to do. Come on, do it for me, like that, of that.
Yeah, and there's like it does exactly what you want it to do, right? Which is it just takes away the, I don't know, the magic somehow. Because if you've done like Ruby, I don't know about Python, but Ruby, for example, there's like an art form there where you like it's like an incantation, a magic spell. In Golang, it's just it's bare. Like whatever you put there is like exactly what the statement is.
And a lot of people before callback concurrency in JavaScript confused the hell out of traditional software developer as well. Just so you know. So the short answer for this is yes and no.
Yeah, callback, and what I noticed recently is the promises as well for a lot of people coming from traditional one.
Yep, correct.
And the new one after promises, which are the async await.
Yep. So
this actually like building on top of each other. You cannot have promises if you don't do callbacks, and you cannot have async await without promises.
Yes.
And of course, the ideal form there in the end is that you just do async await, and you don't have to care about callbacks. But that's where the fundamentals come in again, where you need to learn actually what is happening behind the scenes, and why is it stopping at this particular thing when JavaScript is single threaded, right? And how does the magic happen?
Yes. And also last one from that is me and Chileong had a common colleague that loved to use leaf style of coding that confused the hell out of a lot of other people.
Yeah, he's recently into Rust.
Yeah, so the short answer is yes and no. You're not.
It's also the organizer of Rust Malaysia.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Is there other question?
No, I think that's it for the comments.
Yeah.
I think next week we'll cover about personal learning and community learning.
Yeah.
Into a meetup.
That would be one of my favorite topics.
Yeah. I think the next thing we should really prepare about is how you self-taught yourself and all that. I would add on top like I have to self-taught all the time, but what other thing I bring?
Yeah, it'll be mostly about swimming.
Yeah, like many show. So that's it. I think
like every other DevKami show, right?
Yeah.
You have the most life experience.
Yeah. I'm more internalized. So that's it. I think we should stop for now. So yeah, next week be ready when we talk about community and personal learning.
Let's say goodbye to everyone.
Yeah. Should we talk about personal learning in the part 3 episode?
We should.
Let's see then. Yeah.
We can see.
Let's just say goodbye first. Bye.
Yeah.